as the Quran.
Sorry if you told me already, but
No. So the Quran, I should actually have one of them. See if they can break it down. So somebody wants to.
Well, Quran is given to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam through Angel Gabriel usually, right?
Okay, yeah.
The hadith there's varying levels of hadith. There's some that have been considered authentic, some that are inauthentic, and it's so back then the scholars took a lot of time. A lot of them are sayings of the Prophet and things that he actually said, but other things are like they heard this or that, and this was the way he did something, and so people took a lot of care to write them down. And then certain ones like Bukhari and some of the other ones took like crazy care to write them down and went through and like so they're not they are I mean there's ones that they deem authentic and those are true sayings of the Prophet, things that he
based on
wrote.
like a scholarly consensus or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
through like many scholars and through like years and years of studies. I don't know how many were written like were they all written? Do you know when they were all written? Like I know they're written over like various time period, but like
Right.
within the Quran period or after?
No, it's not. It's not within the Quran period. So, and that's good way to put it. So the Quran pretty much is the actual word of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, right? That's how, the Muslims receive the Quran, believe in the Quran, view the Quran, right? It is the actual word, meaning that Allah spoke those words. And if you ask me how, I would say Allahu A'lam, right? Like when Allah says in the Quran that Allah spoke to Moses, I have no idea, right, how, but it was words, right, that Moses apparently understood. And Allah said, for example, the conversation that took place between Musa and Allah, right, to the point that Musa told Allah, can you reveal yourself to me because I want to look at you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Allah says, no, you're not going to be able to see me, and if you can look at that mountain. So this is like an exchange of words. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke the Quran. The Quran, however, has been given to the angel Jibreel, who transmitted it to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it was revealed in its original form, which is the Arabic, right? And now, so I mean, it's good that you took us to this, but it's free. So if you say, so Arabic to a lot of people is a language, which, right? Right? So in Arabic, so al-Arab, like for example, Allah says Quran Arabi, right? He says a Quran and Arab. So in English it says Quran Arabi, right? Now a lot of people say, for example, the Quran, that it is, quote unquote, a word that I don't really like, a mu'jiza, which in English it's a miracle, right? And they say it is a miracle because there is no such thing like the Quran, meaning like even the Arabs, for them they couldn't imitate or emulate or bring about something that resembles a word in the Quran or the format of the Quran, right?
Because it was different than what was.
It defied them in this concept, right?
Okay.
But they understand when they hear, even the disbelievers among the Arabs at the time, if they hear something, they would understand it way better than me, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it was revealed in their own dialect, language, however you want to put it, right? But the Arab, that even the word itself has a meaning, because Araba is to express yourself, right? The word Araba, Araba, right? And if you flipped it, this would become Abara, which is crossover, right? Which is it's a way to communicate, right? So my thought crossed over to your brain, because of some words that I'm expressing with my tongue, right? By moving my mouth and my flapping my
Yeah.
my lips, and that's how so those are words. So it is Arabi.
Then Allah says mubin. So the Quran, He says Arabi mubin. Mubin is very clear. There's no confusion, right? And anything other than the Arabi, it's considered A'jami. And A'jami is the opposite of Arabi. A'jami is when you speak with ambiguity. Like you speak, but I'm still going to ask you for more. Can you clarify? Can you elaborate more, right? As opposed to me saying it from the get-go and you understand it. So Allah says that is the Quran Arabi. So the Quran as a whole is the wording of Allah that was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ via angel Jibreel, right? So that is the Quran. And the Quran beginning with Al-Fatiha all the way to the last surah, which is Surah An-Nas, right? That is the Quran intact. Right? Nothing was changed.
Ikhlas is the
That's
last
the
one.
third to the last, right? Ikhlas.
Huh?
Ikhlas is not the last one.
No, An-Nas is the last one.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got Ikhlas, Al-Masad, and An-Nas. No, Ikhlas.
مسج إخلاص
Huh?
مسج إخلاص
Al-Masad. No, not Al-Masad. It's the Ikhlas.
تبت يدا and then إخلاص.
No, so there's Ikhlas. And after that, there's قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ, so Surah Al-Falaq. And then Surah An-Nas. Right? So the Nas being the last surah in the Quran, right? And so that right there, it is the Quran. The Prophet wasn't to change anything at all, right? Even the verses that were critical of him, in some instances, right? He was being criticized. In those verses, he was to reveal it exactly as it was sent to him. Right? So that is the Quran. The Hadith, however, is sayings of the Prophet, right, that are related to the religion or to what's going to happen later on, right? So that is called Hadith. And those ahadith, or ahadith is the plural of hadith, those were being recorded by his companion, right? Like Isa had followers and companions and disciples. So he would say something and they would record it, right? That the master said so and so and so, and it got recorded, right? And unfortunately, that's what they put as being the gospel, right? Which is just, those are saying of Isa, which equals the hadith. You understand? The equivalence of that is pretty much the hadith. What the Injil is that Injil, the actual Injil should be revelations from Allah to Isa. And even the saying of Isa within the Bible is nothing but 10%. Right?
The Injil is what, the New
The
Testament?
gospel.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's like what Isa actually said represent nothing but 10%, if that.
Okay.
Right? Out of all the books in the New Testament. So where is what Isa said? I don't care about what so and so said. I want to know what Isa said. So if you pick up what they call the red letter Bible, right? And the red letter Bible has in red what Isa actually said, right? And you accumulate that, it's probably going to cover 2 or 3 pages. Whereas the rest is Isa went here, Isa met this one, Isa did that, right? But what did he actually say, right, Rob?
I did not know that it was so little.
It is. I have one. I have a red letter Bible. And it's very, very, very little what he actually said.
Allegedly.
Right? They put it in red. Like
Right,
Isa,
yeah.
You
like
know,
Jesus
that's
said so and so and so. It's in red.
Yeah.
It's very little. As per what Paul, for example, said. Like as the letters to the Romans, this and this and that. It's like, I'm not interested in that because he wasn't the one who was sent from Allah, right? But anyway, so the hadith is exactly what the Sahaba recorded from the Prophet ﷺ, right? So that during the
The
Prophet's
Sahaba are,
companions,
yeah,
right? The
Yeah, yeah.
companions.
okay.
So during the life of the Prophet ﷺ, he did order them to write only the Quran, so you won't get confused, right? Right? So they were taking down the ayat of the Quran.
And then after he died, then the Sahaba, like for example, he wasn't all the time with all of them at once, right? So sometimes he was with this one, sometimes he was with two, sometimes it depends on the circumstances, right? Throughout the life, the time that he had, which is 23 years, right? That he was being a prophet. So in those 23 years, he met so many people. He was so, but there was some who were regular with him all the time, right? And then the circumstances differed. So if he says something, people, they caught it, they captured it, they memorized it, right? And he said, like, for example, sometimes there's two people, three or four, that would report the exact same thing, the exact same hadith. Sometimes there's only one, right? Sometimes there's two, and sometimes there is one that got it, but gave it to two or three, right? So that made the job for some people who came like 2 centuries later very difficult. Not very difficult. So, like for example, when she mentioned Al-Bukhari, right? So there is the Sahih Al-Bukhari, which is like the authentic book of hadith of Al-Bukhari. Al-Bukhari has put like a rule of how he is going to pursue this hadith, right? So, oh, this is Dr. Noor. So let me just see if I can answer because my phone isn't. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Let me see if he's outside. And I'll be right back.
What's the difference between the Sunnah and the Hadith?
I think the sunnah is like the way,
Is
and the
that?
hadith are things he said
Oh, okay.
about this. I don't know. I
And
mean,
the Sunnah is?
what's that?
What's the Sunnah?
The sunnah, I think that means the way.
Oh, the
Like the
way.
ways of the Prophet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like
And,
things he did.
So you, whatever he would do, but the things
Also,
that we
people
said,
recorded it.
yeah, but,
Okay.
yeah,
Like only eat with your right hand and this
Yeah.
and that. Like that's all. Like
but
things
then
he
like there's
did.
Sunni Muslims, and that's from the Sunnah,
Oh, yeah.
so. And then there's the Shia.
When
And
you
a
start
whole
getting all
bunch
the
of other-
divisions.
Are there Shia around here?
Yeah, a few, yeah.
In this
Yeah.
area, I don't know, but in like
In
in Dearborn
Harrisburg.
and stuff.
Oh,
there's
yeah,
a lot.
and indeed,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Jersey for
But-
sure.
Is there a
I didn't know about
special-
around here.
Is there a
Yeah.
Shiite mosque on 3rd Street in Harrisburg?
Oh, really?
That's a Shia mosque?
Which one?
It's on 3rd Street. Is it a
There's a
Shiite?
Shiite?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the, I think that's the Ahmadiyya.
Isn't it
Thanks.
Shiite?
I'm not really sure.
But Sufis are considered Sunni, right?
What's that?
I don't
Sufis
know.
are considered Sunni, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's,
But we'll
anyway,
we'll get
yeah.
into that.
I don't wanna delay the lesson any
Okay,
further.
so where was I? So I was saying that Al-Bukhari, for
Yeah.
example, he put some rules for him to follow to authenticate a hadith, right? So for example, let's say Nabil, let's just imagine Nabil being a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, and he has, right, said that I was with, and I heard him say X, Y, Z, right? So you came later on, you came like the next generation, and then you met with him and he told you that, right? So Al-Bukhari said, I need at least 2 or 3 who would corroborate what he said, right? If not, then there has to, like, the incident has to be proven beyond any doubt that he actually met the Prophet ﷺ and he said X, Y, Z, right? And then he would look at the hadith also and analyze it and see whether it's like something weird, something strange, right? So, because they have many categories of hadith. They have even the hadith which is gharib, which is gharib, weird. It's like strange. Meaning is like, yeah, but it doesn't sound like something a prophet would say, for example, right? And so he put some really strict rules, like him, and then it came Muslim, Imam Muslim. There's an Imam also, so there's 2 books. However, they said he is very, 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 he was very strict about like how or who he would be taking a hadith from, right?
Okay.
There is an incident. I was reading a book a long time ago about him, about the Bukhari, and he had, mashallah, a very sharp memory, very, very sharp memory, to the point like it's like a photographic memory. It's like something like he would memorize a hadith totally in a very I don't know, kind of like
You just hear it and you just pick it up.
what's that?
You just hear it and pick it up.
Sorry.
So sometimes he said, the Bukhari said, that he was going around and then he traveled a lot. Like he would travel distances for one hadith or two just to see. Like let's say Rob and Nabil, they both were in Medina, right? But he went to Baghdad, he went to Yemen, right? He would travel, and if he said that so-and-so was with me, he would travel to make sure that so-and-so, like he would ask and say, okay, is Rob is still alive? Yes, he's still alive. Where is he at? He's in Yemen. So he would travel all the way from Iraq, all the way to Yemen to meet with that and then authenticate. And he says, yes, yeah, I was with him, right? And then he would actually confirm that, and that becomes an authentic. So he did like a really, really hard work to actually accumulate and compile all those hadith in a book that he calls Sahih al-Bukhari. But again, those are the sayings of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, right? But sayings that don't have to do with the worldly stuff. It has to do with the deen. You know what I'm saying? So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, "Khudu anni deenakum," like has nothing to do with worldly stuff, right? That worldly stuff is worldly.
So the sunnah is kind of the worldly stuff he did every day.
No, the
like-
sunnah is the hadith.
Oh, all right, okay.
Right.
So it's like interchangeable, sort of.
Right, so the sunnah is that. So the sunnah is the Prophet ﷺ, for example, say in a hadith, right? One time he said, we were with the Prophet ﷺ, he stood up, he was gonna start praying, then he told us, pray as you see me pray. That becomes a hadith, right? Because they saw and they heard it. The Prophet ﷺ was going to go ahead and perform the ritual of Hajj, right? He got on his camel, everybody can see him. Now that hadith has been reported from many people. Why? Do you know why?
Because they all saw him.
Because there was a lot of people, right, that heard him say that. Sometimes he's only with 2 or 3 or 4. Sometimes he was with a bunch of people, right? And they all can confirm, yes, we were there. Like for example, one of the very famous is the speech that his last speech that he gave. That was masses of people, right, that actually heard that speech. And they all reported the same way, that he said this, and this, and this. And this is how the speech started, this is how the speech. And then the way he died, for example, right? A lot of people who saw him, they witnessed him, they witnessed what he said, they witnessed what his last words were. Sometimes he's with his wife, that's it, like he's intimate, and then she would tell that people would come and ask Aisha, for example, like how did he do this and this and that, and then she told them this is how it was done, right? And like the way when he died, it was just him and her, right? And he died in her lap, and she said, well, this is what happened, this is what his last word was, and all of a sudden, he wasn't there anymore, right? He just passed away, and she said, I knew that that's it. Because at one point, like for example, there's a hadith that the Prophet told them, he said, that all the prophets, with no exception, whenever Allah would send the angel of death to any prophet, except that the angel of death would give the prophet the option. Do you want to go now or do you want to stay, right? And so that was given to the Prophet ﷺ. So when he was dying, of course, a person is dying, very weak, they can't move their hands, they're like in their last moments, right? And she said that when he was dying, he just kept looking up and he kept saying in a very feeble, weak way, like words he was trying to actually struggling to say them. And he says, I want to go up, like I want the company of Allah. She said, that's when I knew that he chose there, not us, right? So this is like the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and that's the difference between this. And I was just trying to break it down in a nutshell, and that's
Thank you.
as good as I can or as summarized, right? As I can say, is there anything you wanna add